Let me tell you a truth that many never come to realize in their entire lifetime. You do not chase success, you become it. Success is not some wild beast you hunt down in the jungle of life. It is not hiding behind a corner, waiting to be discovered. And the word success is attracted. It is drawn to the one who becomes worthy of it. You want more out of life? Then be more. You want the rewards? Then build the identity of the person who earns them. You don't chase success, you attract it by the person you are becoming. This is not just a clever phrase. It is one of the most profound truths in the journey of achievement. The world is filled with people who are constantly running, endlessly striving, and desperately grasping at success. They change cities, jobs, relationships, and even personalities, trying to catch that elusive feeling of victory. But no matter how far they run or how fast they move, they find themselves stuck in the same place, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, because they never realize that success is not somewhere out there. It begins inside. It starts the moment you decide to change not what you do, but who you are. You must become the kind of person success is drawn to. Success is not interested in desperation. It doesn't respond to begging or chasing. It responds to preparation, consistency, and identity. You see, the law of attraction is not a mystical force. It is the natural consequence of alignment. When your actions, thoughts, beliefs, and standards are aligned with excellence, success gravitates toward you as surely as gravity pulls the earth downward. The man who works relentlessly on himself, who invests in his mind, who disciplines his habits, and who refuses to live beneath his potential, becomes a living magnet. He doesn't have to scream for attention. He doesn't have to convince the world. The world senses his value, and the world responds. People often ask, what do I need to do to be successful? But that's the wrong question. The right question is, who do I need to become so that success is inevitable? You see, when you focus only on tactics, you can achieve short-term wins. But when you focus on identity, you create lifelong momentum. The difference between the two is staggering. A tactic may land you a deal, but identity keeps you in demand. A tweak might get you noticed, but character makes you unforgettable. Look around at the people who are admired, respected, and elevated in their fields. What do they have in common? It's not just talent, it's not luck. It's who they have become over time, the way they carry themselves, the way they think under pressure, the way they show up, even when no one is watching. That is what makes them attractive, not physically, but energetically. They radiate a frequency that others want to be around. That frequency was not stumbled upon, it was earned, built, forged in the fire of daily discipline and consistent growth. You are attracting right now, whether you realize it or not. Your habits, your thoughts, your words, your choices are signaling to the world the type of person you are. And the world, in return, is giving you a reflection of that. So if you don't like what's coming into your life, don't blame the outside world, look within. Change your frequency, refine your identity, upgrade your habits. The more you grow, the more the world will begin to treat you differently. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Success doesn't need to be chased. You just need to become someone it cannot ignore. Character is the silent force that draws all things to you. It does not shout, it does not demand, it does not beg for recognition. Yet it is the most powerful magnet in existence. People may admire charm, praise talent, and celebrate achievement, but what they trust, what they follow, is character. It is the foundation beneath every lasting success, and it cannot be faked. You can pretend to be many things for a while, but the truth of your nature always rises to the surface. And when your character is strong, it does not need an introduction. It speaks before you enter the room. It resonates in every decision you make. every promise you keep, every storm you endure without breaking. Your results in life are deeply tied to the strength of your character. It is not merely about doing the right thing when everyone is watching. It is about the standards you uphold when no one is around to reward you. The quiet choices, the private commitments, the decisions that won't trend, won't be liked, won't be seen, but shape the very core of who you are. That is where power lives. That is where attraction begins. Because people are drawn to certainty, to integrity, to someone whose actions match their words, whose values are not negotiable. That kind of person becomes rare, and what is rare becomes valuable. Character is what allows you to withstand pressure, to carry responsibility, to sustain success without collapsing under its weight. There are many who rise quickly, propelled by talent, by luck, or by shortcuts. But without character, they fall just as fast. Because while achievement may open doors, only character can keep them open. The business deal, the relationship, the reputation, none of these can survive without trust. And trust is born from character, not charm. This is why your inner life is more important than anything you can broadcast to the world. The quiet voice that guides you, the conscience you either honor or silence, the daily disciplines you either keep or neglect, these are the roots of your power. A man who lives by principle does not need to announce his greatness. It is evident in how he moves through the world. It is reflected in the respect he commands, not by force, but by presence. You must understand that every challenge you face, every test you encounter, is an opportunity to fortify your character. The struggle is not your enemy. It is the gymnasium of the soul. It is in difficulty that your strength is measured. Anyone can be polite when things are easy, but it is the one who holds his dignity when betrayed, who stands firm when abandoned, who keeps his word when it hurts. That man possesses a magnetic power that cannot be taught. It can only be forged. So if you wish to attract greater success, do not focus merely on appearance or performance. Focus on depth. Focus on truth. Build a character so steady, so unshakable, that the world has no choice but to align itself with you. Because when your character is right, everything else begins to fall into place, not by force, but by the quiet, commanding pull of who you are. Your thoughts are the blueprint. Your actions are the magnet. Everything you see in your life right now began in the invisible realm of thought. Every result, every circumstance, every opportunity or obstacle is tied in some way to the ideas and beliefs you have held consistently over time. Thought is the origin of all creation. It is the architect designing the structure of your life. But a blueprint alone does not build a house. It is only through action, deliberate, consistent, intentional action, that the vision becomes reality. You can think grand ideas. You can dream powerful dreams. But until those thoughts are backed by motion, they remain locked away in the mind, unreachable and unfelt. It is not enough to merely think positively. Many people believe that if they visualize long enough, things will magically appear. But the universe does not reward wishful thinking. It responds to courageous doing. Your actions are the signal you send to the world that you're serious about what you believe. Every time you follow through, every time you take a step aligned with your vision, you are turning your thoughts into magnetism. You are pulling opportunities, people, and resources towards you, not by force, but by alignment. Think of your mind as the drafting table where you shape the life you want. It is in the mind that you define who you will become, what you will stand for, and where you will go. But think too long without acting, and you begin to doubt. You begin to hesitate. And hesitation is the enemy of momentum. There are those who spend their lives dreaming but never doing. believing that clarity must come before movement. But clarity often comes through movement. You sharpen your vision by acting on what you already know. You refine the blueprint through the laying of bricks. Every successful individual has learned this truth. Thought gives direction, but action gives power. There is nothing more magnetic than a person who is clear in thought and relentless in action. When your internal beliefs match your external behavior, you become a force. You begin to radiate authenticity. People trust you, not because of what you say, but because of how you live. You become dependable, consistent, and focused. And that is attractive in any field, in any era. You must also understand that action shapes belief. The more you act in alignment with your vision, the more your mind begins to believe it is possible. Confidence is not born in the mind, it is earned in the doing. Each step forward rewires your thinking. Each small win builds evidence that you are capable. And over time, this inner certainty becomes visible to the world. It shows in your posture, your tone, your decision. You no longer need to prove yourself. Your life becomes the proof. So do not simply sit in thought. Think powerfully, but act boldly. Let your mind dream and your hands build. That combination is irresistible. That union of vision and execution is what makes you magnetic. Because in the end, your thoughts may light the spark, but it is your actions that set the fire in motion and draw success toward you like a flame pulling in the wind. You become what you respect, and you attract what you admire. This is a law written not in books, but in the fabric of human nature. The things you hold in high regard, the values you honor, the principles you esteem, these are the seeds you plant into your own character. You cannot repeatedly admire strength, discipline, and integrity without slowly shaping yourself into a person who carries those same traits. Likewise, you cannot continuously give your attention to mediocrity, laziness, or deceit without those things leaving a mark on you. We are drawn to what we celebrate, and we are shaped by what we give our energy to. The world mirrors back to you what you truly respect, not what you claim to, but what you consistently notice, what you speak about, what you reward. If you constantly admire shortcuts, you begin to seek them. If you respect people who play the long game, who stay the course, who live with honor, then you start aligning with that frequency. It changes how you walk, how you speak, how you think. That admiration begins to turn into action, and that action begins to mold your identity. The admiration becomes attraction. This is why the environment you immerse yourself in matters deeply. Who you spend time around, who you study, what you watch and listen to. All of it forms a kind of mental and emotional atmosphere. If your environment is filled with people who strive for excellence, who wake up early, who push themselves beyond comfort, then you will feel the pull to rise. Their presence alone becomes a standard you feel compelled to meet. But surround yourself with people who mock growth, who avoid responsibility, who settle for less, and before long, your own standards begin to slip. Not because you want to fail, but because you've unconsciously begun to admire the wrong thing. Respect is a form of inner agreement. When you respect something, you're saying to yourself, this is valuable, this matters. And anything you assign value to has the power to shape you. That's why you must be careful with your admiration. Don't admire flash over substance. Don't respect popularity over a purpose. The world is full of distractions that glitter but have no gold. Train yourself to recognize the difference. Learn to admire depth. Admire the person who keeps their word. Admire the one who chooses growth over comfort, who sacrifices now for something greater later. That kind of admiration leads you somewhere real. The person you are becoming is quietly being sculpted by the things you look up to. It may not happen in a day, But it happens, word by word, thought by thought, choice by choice. You become a reflection of the things you believe are noble, strong, and true. And once that reflection becomes clear within you, the world starts to see it too. The respect you have for greatness begins to draw greatness into your life. Because ultimately, we do not attract what we want. We attract what we admire enough to become. Growth is not what you get, it's who you become. This is a truth often overlooked in a world obsessed with outcomes. People chase rewards, trophies, and recognition, thinking that growth is measured by what they acquire. But true growth does not lie in possessions or accolades. It is rooted in the transformation of the self. What you achieve can be taken from you. Who you become, your strength, your wisdom, your resilience, that is permanent. That is the real prize. Every challenge you face is not a punishment, but a process. Every difficulty is not an obstacle to avoid, but a doorway to a greater version of yourself. Growth happens in the trenches. It happens when you are stretched beyond your comfort, when you are tested by time, pressure, and doubt. It happens when you fail and get back up, not because it's easy, but because you have decided that you will not remain the same. This decision, this refusal to stay stagnant, is the first sign that you are stepping into real growth. You don't become stronger just because time passes. You grow when you use the time to shape yourself. The pain, the setbacks, the rejections, they all carry within them the raw materials of transformation. But only those who embrace the process can extract the gold. Many people run from the fire, but the fire is where refinement happens. A diamond is not formed in comfort. Steel is not forged in stillness. It is in the heat, the pressure, the resistance, that your true self is revealed. The path to becoming more is not glamorous. It requires humility, because growth demands that you admit you are not yet where you want to be. It requires patience, because progress is often invisible at first. And it requires discipline, because change only comes to those who show up even when they feel like nothing is happening. You grow in the quiet repetitions, in the early mornings, in the moments when no one is clapping. That is where your future is built, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. When you begin to see growth as identity rather than outcome, everything changes. You stop asking, what will I get from this? And begin asking, who will I become because of this? That shift in perspective is powerful. It aligns your effort with purpose. It gives meaning to the struggle, because now every setback becomes a teacher. Every loss becomes fuel. You realize that the person who finishes the race is not the same person who started it. And that is success becomes inevitable when you commit to growth, not as a phase, but as a way of life. Because the world will eventually reward you, not for what you had to endure, but for who you became because of it. And once you have become that person, the kind who cannot be broken, who cannot be shaken, who shows up regardless, then nothing can be denied to you. The prize is not the possession, the prize is you. When you raise your standards, you raise your frequency. This is not some vague philosophy. It is a powerful law that governs every aspect of life. Your standards are the invisible limits you set for what you will tolerate, accept, and expect from yourself and the world around you. And the moment you decide that the old standards are no longer enough, everything begins to shift. Because the world responds not to what you want, but to what you expect, deeply, consistently, and unapologetically. A person with high standards carries a different energy. You can see it in their eyes, hear it in their voice, feel it in their presence. They walk with a quiet certainty, not because they believe they are better than others, but because they refuse to settle for less than they are capable of. That refusal becomes a signal. It broadcasts to the world, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. This is what I will and will not allow. And the world listens. Opportunities, people, and outcomes begin to align, not by chance, but by the magnetic force of identity. The problem is, too many people are living beneath their true potential, not because they lack ability, but because they've accepted average as normal. They've lowered their standards to avoid discomfort. They've convinced themselves that good enough is acceptable. But you cannot attract greatness while tolerating mediocrity. You cannot rise while remaining loyal to habits, thoughts, and relationships that pull you down. If you want more from life, you must demand more from yourself, not in arrogance, but in truth. You already know when you are playing small. You feel it. And until you raise the standard, you'll continue to experience the same cycles, the same frustration, the same stagnation. Raising your standards is not about perfection. It's about elevation. It's about refusing to betray your potential. It's deciding that the version of you who sleeps through your alarm, breaks your promises, or hides from responsibility is no longer welcome. And every time you act in alignment with that higher standard, you raise your frequency. You begin to operate on a level where average can no longer reach you. Things that once tempted you lose their appeal. The people who once distracted you fall away. The noise becomes quiet, and your focus sharpens. When your frequency is high, you don't chase, you attract. You don't beg, you command. Not with force, but with presence. Not with noise, but with substance. People notice when you carry yourself differently, when your words are backed by action, when your standards are non-negotiable and your life reflects it. And over time, the quality of everything around you begins to rise to meet the quality of the person you've become. This is how you change your life, not by waiting, wishing, or complaining, but by raising your standards and letting the world catch up. Because once you decide you're no longer available for anything less than your highest self, you become a magnet for everything that matches that energy. And that is when transformation begins. So now you understand. Success is not something you chase, it's something you attract by the power of who you become. You are not waiting on the world is waiting on you. To decide, to rise, to become the version of yourself that no longer begs for change, but commands it through character, clarity, and consistent action. This journey is not about collecting achievements, it's about building a foundation so strong that success has no choice but to find its home in you. Every thought you think, every standard you raise, every habit you commit to is shaping your future. Not someday, not eventually, right now. You want to change your life? Then change who you're becoming. Respect what is excellent. Admire what is powerful. Act on what is true. Grow through every trial. And refuse to settle for anything less than the frequency of your highest self. Because the truth is simple. When you become the magnet, success comes to you.